Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to today's session on the parent-friendly label, organized in collaboration with Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority. My name is Fatima Bastaki and I will be the moderator for today's webinar. Before we start, I would like to remind you to kindly keep yourself muted throughout the session. Should you have any questions for our speakers, please raise your hand during our Q&A and our speakers will address those questions. Now, I would like to invite to the platform His Excellency Mohammed Ali Rashid Luta, President and CEO of Dubai Chambers, to give the welcome speech. Over to you, Your Excellency.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen, to this webinar today. Children are the greatest gifts and our personal legacies. We are here this morning to discover how corporations can contribute to building conscious and responsible generations. The Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority, also known as the ECA, first launched the parent-friendly label in 2021.
بهدف تحسين تجربة يمكنك الآن إلحاق المكالمات غير المرغوب بها من الجهات التي تقوم بتسويق المنتجات والخدمات. يمكنك
Please keep yourself muted throughout this session. تفضل أستاذ محمد. Ustad Mohammed, Your Excellency, you're muted.
Okay, I think the whole confusion happened after we apologize after the surrounding noise. You know, this is all we always get this due to technology, so I apologize. The Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority first launched the parent-friendly label in 2021 at an emirate level in Abu Dhabi. It was the first volunteer program of its kind in the region. The success of the first cycle of the program, which saw 6 organizations such as HSBC, Masdar, Emirates Nature, WWF, Abu Dhabi Motor Sports Management, Etihad Airways and Silal earning the label for implementing parent-friendly policies, has inspired a national scale rollout in November last year. The Parent-Friendly Label is a voluntary workspace award program that encourages organizations to provide a positive environment to help parents achieve a balance between work, family, and childcare. According to a survey conducted by the ECA, children in Abu Dhabi spend an average of 60 to 70% of their week with nannies and only about 30 to 40% with their parents. Research has shown that it is extremely crucial for parents to play an active role in early development stage of their children. This initiative urges companies to adopt parent-friendly policies and establish an innovative organizational culture that supports parents and enable them to set a general framework for the upbringing of their children in accordance with the best practices related to childcare. These policies help employees balance their work and family commitments, as well as help them cope more effectively with stress and improve their general well-being, which in turn has shown to have positive impact on recruitment, retention, loyalty, and morale. Parent-friendly policies include support for working parents and understanding of family needs, measures to welcome new parents and increased maternity or paternity leaves and breastfeeding hours, along with other innovative programs encouraged by the ECA. We hope to learn more about them in the course of this webinar. In our commitment to support local businesses and organizations, we at Dubai Chamber believe that the parent-friendly label will empower the local business community, enhance the business landscape in Dubai, and promote the Emirate as highly competitive world-class commercial center. I therefore strongly encourage everyone participating in this webinar today to take part of this program, considering putting these parent-friendly policies in place and help establish a brighter future for our young children. Thank you, and I hope to see success for this initiative.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We will now hear from our speakers from Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority. I would like to invite His Excellency Engineer Thamer Rashid Al-Qasimi, Executive Director, Special Projects and Partnerships Sector, Fatima Al-Ka'bi, Partnerships and Parent-Friendly Program Lead, and Melissa Saoudi, Senior Strategist, Applicant Experience for Parent-Friendly Label. Over to you.
Thank you, Fatima. Thank you, Your Excellency. Thanks to Dubai Chamber and all the participants to be with us in here. I think I'd like to start that your participations and presence today to the second time is a testimony of you taking this initiative as an important means to drive your business forward as well. I'd love to call this as a journey, and you will hear me and the team discussing this as we go along to introduce you to the Parent-Friendly Label Initiative of a program. The idea of this journey started almost 3 years ago when we wanted to study the ecosystem and understand how can we really help parent working moms and dads wherever they are in the government as well as in the private sector, semi-government and so on. When we came to the government, we were able to understand that there is a gap. When we came to the international arena, also we've understand that there is a gap. And from there, the whole journey started. What can we do? How can we test it? How can we introduce it? Is it just going to be another label or there is an added value? How can we kind of contribute to a social and behavioral change in the mindset of employers in general within the Abu Dhabi, as His Excellency have said. We started in Abu Dhabi and we presented the first cycle winners. Then at that time, His Highness the President of the UAE directed us that we need to take it to the UAE level, believing in the benefits that it adds to working moms and dads, but it is all about children being at the center of all what we do. Maybe there is a very quick slide on who we are, or maybe I could just speak about it in general. For us, it's just Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority. We are focusing on the child development ecosystem in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi for children here and beyond as well. So we do influence on the federal level as well as internationally based on our expertise and so on. We've also recognized that the early childhood is the area from pregnancy to the age of 8. And we define ourselves with 4 key elements. One, we are enablers, which means we are not service providers. We did have a strategy that we basically look after with almost 46 government partners and maybe in hundreds when it comes to the private sectors and NGOs, all work together to have a better ecosystem when it comes to our little children and parent. We are a policymaker, so basically we look at legislations, laws, and policies within the ecosystem. And when we talk about the ecosystem, I'd like to just emphasize that we are looking at health and nutrition, child protection, family support, as well as early care and education. And that's the uniqueness about early childhood. It's about cross-sectorial, and really it requires a lot of commitment when it comes to collaboration. We are a knowledge hub, so everything that we do, it has to be an evidence-based. Unless it's backed up by research, studies, or data, it is something that we don't want to test, we don't want to go through. We love to do experimentation, and that's what we did for this program. We've experimented the program at the beginning before we started and announced the first cycle here in Abu Dhabi. And then finally, we are disruptors. We believe that in order for us to transform the way that people, society, parent addresses the needs of the little children, we need to be disruptors in the way that we send messages, communicate, advocate, everything related to early childhood developments and how important this is for our nation and for our economy as well. So this is who we are in a nutshell. I will leave it to Fatima Al-Ka'bi from the team to take you through the journey we went through, and then what is the label and how can you really contribute in this journey, as we say. Fatma?
شكرا سعادتك. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. I'll take you through the parent-friendly label. So before I do, I'll play a short video and will tell you about the benefits of, having the parent-friendly label implemented in your organization, and then I'll take you through the content. Go ahead.
You're a business leader. You want your organization to be the best in whatever it does. And you want your employees to come to work each day motivated to succeed. But working parents with young children often face a real juggle, and that impacts your business too. Research shows that flexible working options are important to 90% of the UAE workforce. Global studies show that 40 to 71% of employees are switching jobs to get it. Employee expectations about their work environment are changing. We can help you. The Parent-Friendly Label is a voluntary workplace program for organizations across the UAE. It takes private sector, semi-government, and third sector organizations on a journey towards best practice in parent-friendly workplace policies. Successful organizations which meet the criteria are awarded the Parent-Friendly Label or the Parent-Friendly Label Plus as a mark of their forward-thinking and positive action in this area. 56% of the people working in the UAE want more emphasis on employee well-being and work-life balance. 89% will recommend their organization as a good place to work if they see this happening. The Parent-Friendly Label can help you attract and retain top talent, saving your organization time and money. The Parent-Friendly Label creates a quadruple win for employees, their families, UAE society, and your organization. Other benefits include decreased employee absence, greater productivity, potentially greater profitability, and more. You will connect to other leaders in this space, sharing learnings and challenges. And all of this at no direct cost to your organization. Start your journey towards the Parent-Friendly Label today and join a community of the most progressive organizations in the UAE in supporting working parents and improving business outcomes. The Parent-Friendly Label, supporting UAE organizations, employees, and their children for today and the future.
Thank you for the short video. So I'll take you through it very quickly. So the Parent-Friendly Label program is a voluntarily workplace award program that have a set of criteria where organizations can take and adopt internally in order to be publicly recognized with their parent-friendly policies and practices in general. Why do we need it in the UAE? Based on the research and based on the experimental phases that Engineer Tamer has mentioned earlier, working families in the UAE often need to make difficult decisions in order to fulfill their commitment in life with their families and with their work. And hence, by encouraging more parent-friendly workplaces, we can establish a culture that through the policies, through the different way of working, through offering the flexibility to the employees, that will meet the needs of the working parents, especially the ones with young children. Who is eligible for the label? So we have, the label is for organizations under private sector, semi-government, and third sector, which are the NGOs and the education and non-profitable organizations, all of them to which they are registered in the United Arab Emirates. The parent-friendly label consists of two levels. Level 1 is the parent-friendly label, and that is basically a set of criteria that matches the Ministry of HR and Human Resources law in general, but offering a little bit more of flexibility, a little bit more of internal culture support and internal and more into parental leave days. The parent-friendly label plus, which is level 2, this is the international standard of supporting parents within the work environment. Who benefit from the parent-friendly label? So we have the parents who are working on those organizations in general. Those parents are getting the support that they need. They're getting the flexibility to be with their children, and at the same time, in parallel, they offer their commitment, their loyalty to the organizations that offer this kind of support. And of course, indirectly, that goes to the children who they have their family next to them, especially when they celebrate, when they are not feeling well, and so on. And of course, the UAE government in general. So before launching the program, we've done a lot of case studies, a lot of research. And one of the research studies that we've built and established the whole content behind was the Hickman theory. And Hickman is a Nobel Prize person who have studied the investment in the early childhood development, the early year of early childhood. And $1 invested in the early childhood sector in general, with all its pillars and support, has a return on investment between $5 to $15 as a return. And that is a huge investment that the whole leadership, the Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority, and the parent-friendly label are actually building and establishing their criteria and outreach based on. We'll take you through the specific criteria on the actual benchmarking, the international benchmarking, and the specific criteria of the parent-friendly label. I'll hand over to my colleague Melissa, who will take you through all of that, and then we'll open up the teams for any questions from your side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fatma. Appreciate that. All right, so what we're going to go through now is when we say parent-friendly, what does that really mean? And what does that mean for the UAE specifically within the context of our environment and our ecosystem? So in order for us to identify what best-in-class or what a compassionate workplace looked like in the UAE, we had to kind of do the work and do the experimentation to get there. So in order for us to come up with a parent-friendly label, we went through a pretty rigorous process. We looked at the statutory requirements across the UAE for the private sector as it relates to parent-friendly policies. We did an extensive benchmarking, looking at various countries around the globe and best practices in various organizations. And we had a lot of working sessions, both with subject matter experts and researchers in the field, and spent a lot of time with organizations here in the UAE. So as we came up with our framework in terms of what are the attributes or what are kind of the pillars of parent friendliness, we spent a lot of time with organizations to understand if this was a target, is this something that is doable? We really wanted to understand, what does good look like for us? Because we are not the UK and we are not Iceland. We have a proud history, and we try to reflect that in the way that we've developed the criteria. And as a result, we were able to come up with the parent-friendly label criteria, which I'm going to take you through now. So the parent-friendly label criteria has 5 pillars, which we're going to go through. And as Fatma, my colleague Fatma, was just saying, there are 2 levels of the label. So there's parent-friendly and parent-friendly plus. Now for each of those, we have different criteria and targets for each. One being parent-friendly is really what is best practice here in the UAE. And then parent-friendly plus being a bit more of a stretch target that's aligned to leading practice. But for parent-friendly, let me stress that it is very much ambitious, yet it is indeed achievable. And we know this as we have 6 earners from last cycle. Now, one thing that's really important as well is that in the definition of the criteria, we noted the need to be both flexible yet specific. And so what you'll see as I take you through the criteria is that we have both required and optional criteria. So you'll see here at the top, required v optional, and I'll kind of talk about how that works. So one of the key pillars of the parent-friendly label is, of course, parental leave. Now that pertains to maternity leave, to paternity leave, and special support and leave that is provided to parents for cases of natural birth, as well as for in adoption scenarios and foster parents as well. And as an example, our maternity leave in order to achieve parent-friendly, our maternity leave target is 3 months. Yeah, so it's in excess of the 45 days specified by the statutory requirement. Now, as another example of our criteria, the next one is flexible work. Now, flexible work is all about hybrid working policies. It's about part-time hours. It's about annualized hours. It's about providing parents that flexibility to be able to work from home or be able to work from the office so that they can have more time to spend with their parents. Now, a lot of organizations are certainly heading in this direction. And obviously, the COVID moment was something that really kind of catapulted us. And one key aspect around the parent-friendly label is we don't want to just leave that in COVID times. We want to continue to carry that forward as the future of working here in the UAE. Next is around family care. Family care is the kind of support that is provided for parents to be able to care for their children. So that includes things like nursing rooms. That includes things like childcare support, support that can be done from the organization itself to help them to be better parents. And as you can see here, again, I'll just reflect that up at the top, the darker criteria is required and the ones below are optional. And so how that works is that the required criteria are required as indicated by the name. But then as an organization, when you fill out your application and apply for the label, you don't need to achieve all of the optional criteria. You can achieve some. And that's in reflection of the fact that every organization is different, depending on the size of the organization, the history of the organization, the sector, the nature of your work. And so that's how we've managed to make it both flexible, yet very, very clear what we mean by parent-friendly. The next one is family well-being. So of course, when we talk about a parent and we talk about, them being able to spend time and give their best to their children, of course, thinking about their well-being as a holistic whole person is really critically important. And so here, this is where we look at worker protection, employee well-being, and also, importantly, we also look at women's leadership and career programs. And that's because we can all acknowledge that women tend to spend more time in caregiving duties. But let's be very clear, this is about parenting, and part of the values of the parent-friendly label is that parenting is indeed a shared responsibility. Now, all of this is wonderful, but then the next criteria is one of my favorites, culture. So even if you have everything documented in policy, but the employees themselves within the organization are not feeling it, or if they feel that parent-friendly policies or flexible working policies are not being implemented consistently, then there's a loss there. And so culture is all about how much the organization itself really embeds parent-friendliness into the organization. Are managers role modeling behavior? From a perception perspective, do people believe that it's acceptable for a man to take his paternity leave benefit? So within the context of that, we have a lot of perception-based questions that are really kind of around, how does the organization really embed parent-friendliness into the organization itself? Yeah. And one thing that's, sorry, go ahead, Fatma, I see you come up. Yeah. Yes.
I just wanted to add that you could have the right policy in place, but the internal culture doesn't support that policy. Or you could have the perfect culture internally, but the policy doesn't support that culture, and it's inconsistent between, all the levels across the whole organization. So with the parent-friendly criteria, what we want to do is to maintain that level across the whole organization and make sure that there is constant communication, internal communication with the employees of what's the practice internally, what is happening. And you could look at the whole criteria and say, for example, flexible working, I'm working on operations, I'm working on profitable business or something very specific that will not specifically apply to me. So we're aware of that sometimes a criteria could be challengeable for some organizations, especially medium to small organizations. But however, what are the alternatives that you offer for your employees as an alternative? So you have a flexible, you can't offer flexible work for all the employees, but what are the alternatives? Can they, for example, have a different set of alternatives? Can they have a kind of policy that help them afterwards or before work or during work, that for all employees, you give them a bit of, flexibility, doesn't necessarily talking about the clock in, clock out. It could be totally, in supporting the employees within through the culture to that offering of flexibility.
Yes, thank you, Fatma. I think that's a really important point, that the criteria is not just for large organizations or just for small organizations. It's actually for all organizations. And we're very wary that every organization has its own specific needs and challenges. And that is why we have included something called the innovation criteria as well. Now, the innovation criteria is really free form. It is all about you as an organization putting your best foot forward in terms of how is it that maybe you have responded to some of the constraints around providing a family-friendly or parent-friendly work environment. How have you then found other ways to show compassion to enable parents to be able to thrive? And so whilst we have the criteria in place, we are looking in our applications and we really champion and celebrate organizations that are finding creative ways to really accommodate their employees and really demonstrate and put that foot forward. I think there's a question in the chat. Should we address now, or can you define flexible work? Absolutely, yes. While we're on we can bring it up in the Q&A section, but just to elaborate on the flexible work. Yeah, so flexible work is regarding a hybrid working policy. Yeah, so that means that parents can, in some cases, work from home. It also would include special provisions for parents when they have to go to, say, school events or for family emergencies. It also includes some criteria around part-time work, annualized hours, and job share. And actually, after this call, we will share with you all of the material. We've been quite specific in terms of what we'd expect to see in a best-in-class flexible working policy. So thank you for that question, and we'll carry on. Right. All right, so let's talk about how you apply. Yes, so right now our applications are open. They've been open since last quarter of last year, and now we have less than 100 days left for the application. So on May 12th, we close the application. Now, what does that entail? There is a parent-friendly, there is an application form, an online application form, and we'll share all of those details with you. And then secondly, there is what we call the parent-friendly label experience survey. Now, both parts are required to have it be considered that your application is complete. So the application form asks a lot of specific questions around the criteria. There are some multiple choice, there are some free form text. There's uploading evidence, policies, pictures, whatever you feel will support your case in terms of where you are in your journey and how you are, being a parent-friendly workplace and how you bring that to life. And then the parent-friendly label experience survey is really assessing things. There's some of those perception-based questions that I mentioned. Yeah, are managers real role modeling behaviors? We are doing enough for parents with children of determination. So it's all very perception-based, and that's kind of how we close it from a top-down and a bottom-up perspective. Now, after that, once it goes into the queue, it will be reviewed. Every application will be reviewed in detail by third-party evaluators. So myself, Fatma, His Excellency, we don't review the applications. We brought in a third party that, in order to protect the objectiveness of the evaluation, that they come in and they review everything that you have shared. Now, in some cases, they ask for clarification sessions. So that's an opportunity as an applicant to put your best foot forward, to clarify anything that may not be clear. And then following that, there's a recommendation that then goes up to an esteemed panel of judges. Now, this panel of judges represent key stakeholders from all across the Emirates, and they make the final decision. And it's worth noting that when they perform the final assessment, it's a blind assessment. So the names of the organizations are removed. So we put in place a number of checks and balances to ensure that there's transparency in the process and that it remains objective. Now, finally, whatever the case, whatever the outcome, you are then notified of your status. And I want to pause here, that we do not like thinking of our applicants as winners and definitely not as losers. We think of everyone as an earner. Yeah, so our winners are earners. And also, we don't see winners and losers, because where we see this is absolutely a journey. Every organization that is trying to push this agenda, that is interested in the future of work and taking steps towards doing that, has won. And for us, a win is to have you within your organizations to discuss the criteria, to discuss your approach to parents, and to discuss, how is it that you can perform your application, and whether, you're selected for this cycle or not, you will receive a customized recommendation report. Okay, that is very clear in terms of, where the gaps are, what the strengths are. And then that will be discussed with the evaluators, with you yourself. And then that is then something that you can use if you would like to discuss it with your management. So it's kind of like a free consulting service as well. And then really importantly, for our earners, once they come into our community, we call them the PFL Connect group. And we really believe that they are a group of organizations that are defining the future of work in the UAE. Now, as an earner, you receive, of course, all of the branding assets. You can use them as you please. There's lots of promotion that is done in terms of your status. But also there is a very important benefit, which is around knowledge sharing. So we bring our earners together and they talk about difficult topics, like, for example, a push back to going back to the office. How do you maintain a culture of hybrid working? How do you bring children to the office? Is that advisable? Why not? Yes, why not? So we have a lot of knowledge sharing sessions. We bring the organizations together and we let them exchange thoughts, and they help one another in terms of challenges and successes and inspire one another as well. All right. So, Fatma, would you like to take our Cycle 1 achievements?
I'll refer to what His Excellency Mohammed Lota mentioned, is that we had 6 winners in the first cycle, and those are the companies who have earned the label. Those organizations has been honoredly invited to the palace of the president. They have been, publicly recognized, and the president himself has made it very clear during that recognition that this initiative, this program, is very important. Every organization that has, big number of employees can actually come, apply, and earn the label. They get to know about their employees. They get to offer that flexibility for their employees. And the president himself has actually directed us to take this program from Abu Dhabi to all the organizations across the whole UAE. So we got only 6 organizations winning in the first cycle, but that 6 winners has impacted more than 6,000 young children, and more than 20,000 employees has benefited from, the flexibility and the culture and the offering that the parent-friendly label has within its content. And that's really important. And what we wish for everyone who's available here on the call today is, I put the link here on the chat and we'll share all the links with you. So just go to the link, try to look at the criteria, see what's applicable to you and to your organization, and start to fill the criteria. Take the evidence, upload the evidence, put your information in there. And there is no, like Melissa mentioned, there is no winning, no losing, nothing. You will just get to assess and understand where do you stand in terms of, the new way of working, the new workplace environments. How does it, what's the direction on them right now? And how can you improve and be on the right track? Offering those criteria to your employees and getting that, publicly recognized and well established with your ecosystem and the environment and the community within the UAE in general.
Thank you, Fatma. I'd also like to share a recent exciting update. So we've recently received support from UNICEF. And so we received a quote, which is obviously, they were a key part, of course, when we were initially performing the research, looking at the standards and the research coming from UNICEF. So we're very proud to have come full circle and recently received a vote of their support. So we're very happy about that. Now, so I think we've come to the end of our presentation, and we didn't want to make it too long. We definitely wanted to open this up for discussion. You'll see here some resources which you're more than welcome to apply. To scan to be able to access. But please, we're here for your questions. We're here to support you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Engineer Thamer, Fatma, and Melissa. We will now open the floor for your questions. Please raise your hands should you have any queries. But before that, we can just take a query from the chat box. We have Rohit Sharma who asked whether the entries can be for UAE-based companies or those also that have corporate policies globally.
Yes, I mean I think there were a number of questions that were kind of similar in the chat. This program is targeted at all organizations across the UAE. There is no specification in terms of size or sector or industry. There's no particular emirate that is excluded. We're looking across all sectors, all industries, and also all makeups of organizations. So whether you're operating internationally or whether you're operating just here in the UAE, all are welcome.
As long as you have your legal entity registered within the UAE, then you are eligible to apply for the label.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Melissa and Fatma. We have one question from Shipra. Please, Shipra, you can unmute and ask your question.
Thank you so much. I am Shipra from Transworld Group. Thank you so much for taking us through the presentation, and I'm sure it's going to drive the next change that is there. My question is, how do you plan to assess culture? Like you did talk about perception-based assessment, but would it be just recordings through photographs or anything that we give as evidence? Because culture is, again, a very open-ended thing to assess. So just leaving that thought with you.
Do you want me to take the question?
Yes, you can take it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Shipra. This is a very good question. Actually, there are two answers to your question. The first part is that after the management or the HR fill the application, there is a workplace experience survey that goes to all your employees. And the answer to that survey come to the PFL team and the evaluators. So we don't only rely on the submission of the management, we actually hear from the employees as well. And this whole answer on the survey actually, so it's a confidential data. We don't get the names, it's the names and the whoever filling the survey and all the details of the employees. No, we just have a set of questions that from answering them, we get to understand the internal culture, and the evaluators put them in the context where they map them to the submission itself, and then they get the indication, are we on the right track or not? That's one thing. And the other thing, on the submission, you will get to provide some communication samples to all your employees, some events that you've organized for your employees, and so on. So if you have documentation and emails, evidence-based that you are providing all of this to your employees, then you can just add it to your submission. And the evaluators will look at everything, all the documents that you provide. And if they need more clarification, they will have a session with you before they get the final decision of whether your application goes forward, or there is actually some feedback that you will get to work it internally and then come and apply on the next cycle.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Shipra.
Thank you. We have another question from Jill De Gracia. Please unmute and you may ask your question.
Hello, hi, good morning. Hi, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you for organizing this. I believe this is a very great initiative coming from the UAE government. So I just have a clarification, really. So when it comes to family care leave, if you don't mind going back to that, when you say nursing, because in the office, for example, we always have meeting rooms. We don't really have nursing rooms specifically for for new mothers. So we at the office in your monitor, we actually allow them to go home and take care of their children.
Okay.
We offer flexibility or family care leave, for example, to take care of their family members who do need support. So will that be applicable in this case, or it has to be like a room specifically for nursing?
Thank you so much for asking that one, Jill. So I think this hits on a really important point. First, can I just ask a question? Were you saying, is your office small at the, do you have a smaller office?
We actually are about 48.
Okay. Okay. All right.
No.
So please go ahead, Fatma.
Yeah. The offering of the nursing room is that for big organizations that, a nursing room is something that, has to be there for females, especially, especially after a pregnancy and when they come back to work, then they would need a nursing room in there for them. And that's one thing. The other element is that some of the organizations that are medium going to large organizations said that the nature of our work, that having a nursing room on site is not something we do. However, we offer alternative to the nursing room, meaning that they, for example, have agreements with nurseries nearby their workplace. They have special offers for their employees in those nurseries or in this, special places. So they have alternative set of benefits that instead of having a place at work, they are giving them the alternative outside of their work. So they're not neglecting the fact that there is something needed for the employees and has to be, offered to them. So if they can't offer it on site for the employees, for the ladies in general, then they offer an alternative with having a kind of a benefit for the employees to claim it later on, or they have an agreement with off-site nurseries where they can go and have their children there, or they can, it's close by where the women can go pass by. And that's one thing. The other thing is offering the flexibility. So when you look at the flexible work, we don't offer nursing room, but we offer 2 hours flexible working. So whoever need that nursing room can actually, have the flexibility to continue working from home, and they have that flexibility within their hand. Whenever they want to use it, they can use it.
Yes, I just wanted to elaborate on that. Thank you, Fatma, because I think what you were suggesting, Jill, it's exactly that. Yeah, that you're a relatively small organization, but you've come up with other ways, right, to ensure that working mothers that are returning from work are able to care for their children. So I think very much to Fatma's point, it's about thinking, okay, if I'm a bit smaller, how is it potentially that I still demonstrate that compassion and still allow a mother to be able to have the flexibility to breastfeed if she wants to? And if that's through flexible working, then that's very helpful. But as you're also getting larger, maybe it's also time to start thinking potentially about getting a nursing room. So that's what the criteria is there for. And actually, to be fair, we don't just say nursing room, we also specify what should be in the nursing room, such as a fridge.
Of course.
Yeah.
If I may add, I have one more question. So when we're applying for the parent label, does it have to have a specific time frame? So for example, is it the last 5 years, last 3 years, or is it current year? I mean, is there a time frame of us to submit our, the things that we have done for the office?
It's as of today. Yes. So something that's really important is that the reason that we have kind of a longer application cycle is because what we are really proud of and really hope for is that, by interacting with us, interacting with the criteria, that you start to spark some policy changes or discussions within your organization. And so a number of organizations that we are working with are actually working on defining their policies or amending their policies or putting some infrastructure in place in time for the application so that they can put their best foot forward. So it is as of today. And we certainly encourage organizations to pick up from the criteria and think about potentially what more can they do by May.
It's not about like the last period, the last month or two, or it's not about doing the policy just to apply and win the label. It's about, you know, the practice that you're ongoing, you know, enforcing within your organization, and you're just applying for the label because you believe that that change is actually happening within your organization, and this is something good to acknowledge publicly with the leadership, hopefully.
All right, thank you very much. We have a few other questions. We have one from Maya Matar. Maya, please unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Thank you, ladies. This is Maya from Shell Hoop Group. Thank you for the amazing initiative. I think it's wonderful. My question is in twofold. One, what's the validity periods of the label? Two, you also mentioned the workplace experience survey. How flexible is that to be married to other surveys that we currently have at the group? Because we also apply for other labels like the Great Place to Work, and we're trying as much as possible to avoid survey fatigue. So just need to understand how flexible is the surveying for that label. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so first of all, the label is held for 2 years. So once you earn the label, it's held for 2 years. There is a validation checkpoint that happens after 1 year. So it's 2 years. Secondly, on the survey, so we're very cognizant of survey fatigue. And again, that's another reason why the application cycle is long. So the survey itself is, as Fatma was saying, is totally anonymized, and it's a unique survey link that is shared from us. Now, what we suggest that organizations do is plan kind of in the cadence of the different surveys that are there, when is the right time to launch it. So unfortunately, it cannot be merged with another existing survey that you have. However, if you would like to start your application, we could of course share with you the survey link as soon as possible. So you don't necessarily have to wait until your application form is completed in order to obtain the survey link, so that you can, you know, kind of get it out there now if that's you know, best from a communications planning perspective, or to wait a little bit later. So I hope that's helpful.
Thank you, Maya. We'll move on to Sue. Sue, can you please unmute and ask your question?
Yes. Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Sue Aiken, and I'm at RAC Hospital in Ras Al Khaimah. So, as I just said, I'm a hospital. So we have a lot of things in place: maternity leave, paternity leave. We're fairly flexible when it comes to, you know, children being sick and have time off. Obviously, we have a nursing room because we have a labour ward. So we've got things in place. However, flexible working hours for clinical staff is almost impossible. Office staff, front office is a bit easier, but for clinical staff, nurses, physiotherapists, pharmacists, it's very, very difficult for us to do that. So any suggestions?
Yes, thank you. This is a very good question. Fatma, would you like to take this one?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. We understand the challenge that the healthcare sector and the other sectors like the education are facing because of the different commitment to the different shift patterns that they, you know, the business rely on in general. And that's up to the management, because we offer the criteria in general, and the criteria is divided into 5 categories, like Melissa took you through it. And if there is a specific criteria that you think is very challenging to apply within your healthcare institute, then what's the alternative that you provide? Or is it different for the core staff, from the shift pattern staff to the operational staff? How do you make it something that doesn't cause them fatigue working and having, you know, that basically, how do you make their life easy? By offering alternatives. Do you segregate the policy for each working group, like the core staff different from the shift pattern staff, different from the operational that you require them differently, and then you offer alternatives? Or, you know, it's up to the management to whether take the criteria that we're having in here in the parent-friendly program and implement, And if there is something very challengeable, then there is the innovation practice. And the innovation, we didn't limit it to any of the specific categories. It's an open category. Meaning is that if I have a challenge on the, for example, flexible working or the paternity and maternity leave, the leave in general, then what are the alternatives I can offer, and how can I lead my sector in providing a solution that will benefit my employees, and I know that it will benefit them. So we kept it open. Each leader in each organization or each management in each organization know their business, know what's attainable to them and what kind of offering they can provide, believing that the change, the impact will create that change that we aim to have, which is offering the flexibility to the working parents and ultimately having more time with their children. I know I put the answer very broadly, but it's really, there is no right or wrong answer. There is an open answer to it, and I'll leave it up to the innovative practice that you can take and implement internally, and the alternative you would offer to your employees in case you couldn't. For example, some of the required criteria are very, difficult to implement internally.
Yeah, I think just to elaborate on that, it's very similar actually to the answer that we gave to Jill, that if there is something about the nature of your work, the type of organization that you're running, that makes a particular criteria more difficult, we understand. So then it's about then how do you demonstrate that compassion? How do you make up in other areas? Is it that you offer, like one of Fatma's great examples was around providing additional childcare support or having partnerships with nurseries. Those are just some potential examples from what we've seen in the past. But really, your organization best. Your clinicians best, right? Have you maybe sat down and spoke with them to understand what kind of support they would like? And actually, that's actually part of the culture criteria as well, which is actually having an open dialogue with your parents, understanding based on the nature of the work and their challenges, what are the things that they would like to see, even if in some cases hybrid working or flexible working doesn't make sense, because for a person is a clinician, and of course we need our frontline workers on the front line.
And when you look at the winners of the first cycle, we have Etihad Airways, and we know that Etihad Airways, for example, have a core staff, have an operational staff, shift pattern, technical engineers, and all of those are on the go, working day and night on different shifts. But what got them to win is that the additional benefits and the alternatives and the internal culture and constant internal culture and communication with their employees have put them in a different level of offering that, support. So we can't measure it on one perspective, like we have the criteria. If I don't meet it, then I won't apply for the label because it's going to be difficult for me. I would encourage you to apply, have the evaluators that we're going to have, assess your organization and get a feedback report. That feedback report will be very helpful, an eye-opener for the future to see which direction you can take going forward.
Thank you. Lots of food for thought there. Thanks.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you very much. Any other questions from any attendee? Sue, again, you have a question. Yes, please.
Sorry, no, I was trying to lower my hand. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. Any other questions? Anjali Lucas, yes, please. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you everyone for this wonderful session, really informative. I was wondering if it would be possible to get maybe a few case studies, especially about this innovation part or the culture part that could actually guide the rest of us in implementation as well, even before we embark on this program, because there could be some quick wins which we could do even before applying. So that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You can get that. I think after the call, Fatma, you will be sharing all the documentation, the video, and the innovative practice that we've got from the label winners currently. So, it's for everyone learning. Everyone will be with us on the journey. and will help them to get across, you know, that bridge, as we call it.
Yes.
Sure, all our attendees will receive the recording, further details. You will get more details on the parent-friendly label. So that is for sure you will be receiving.
And we are here as a, sorry, go ahead, Fatma.
Yeah, no, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that myself, Fatma, there are other colleagues as well. I mean, our intent is to support you along this journey. So, you know, please feel free to reach out in the email that Fatma will be sharing with all of the details. Please feel free, you know, our contact details will be there, and please let's continue this conversation. Let's not let this be the last time that we interact.
Yes, definitely. And again, we do encourage all the companies as Dubai Chambers to apply for the parent-friendly label. Again, we are re-highlighting that it is open for all companies because we saw this question coming up a lot in the chat box. So it's open for all companies, regardless of size, regardless of geographical location, in any emirate of the UAE, and regardless of the number of employees. So we do encourage you for that. If we have no other question, then we will thank you all for participating in today's webinar. And again, we again re-encourage you to participate and to apply for the parent-friendly label to demonstrate leadership in ensuring your workplace is friendly for your employed parents. Thank you very much, and I wish you all a good day ahead.
Thank you.